Welcome everyone to what's officially the halfway point of the Loki Season 2 spoiler reviews by myself. And of course, I'm Mitch. You can follow me on all the socials. I think all the socials anyway. Linktree in the description. It's got everything there. Now, I've been really bad recently. I haven't been talking about the actors' strike, at least, because obviously the writers got what they're owed. And now the studios are being done with the actors, which I don't know how you go from one to another. I know it's sort of a power thing, but come on, it's been too long now. Just pay the actors what they're owed. Let people live, especially the ones making you billions. No, it's not that difficult. So support your actors, both in movies and video games, because hopefully the developer studios aren't as dumb as the movie studios, because that would be awful. It's awful as it is, but we don't want it on two different sides, right? So, to get into a show that would not be possible without actors, especially this caliber of actors, Loki Season 2, Episode 3, 1893, the halfway point. And yeah, straight away, a much better flow between episodes. For me, anyway, right? I felt like it was more of a continuation, not we've missed something, right? But, it's that criticism's been playing on my mind for the last week, right? I genuinely don't know if it's a case of like MCU brain rot, or if I'm just looking at it too much like a movie, because they make these to be like movies. We now know they make these shows to be like movies officially, which, good or bad thing, you decide. I think it's worked and it hasn't in some cases, right? You get your good shows, and then you get your Secret Invasions. But enough about Secret Invasion. I need to stop bringing that up, but I can't help it. It was just why was it so bad? That's something. But yeah, honestly, I couldn't tell you if it's like what, because a part of me thinks it can just be a one-off, right? We get to the end of the season, everything flows together, and it's just the gap between 1 and 2 don't work, or we could, it could carry on for the next 3, right? It's a mystery, I guess, for the future us, or future me. And there are some people that I have seen confused about the plot of this show, which, looking at it, I kind of think's fair. I'm not sure if I necessarily think it's an issue about being confused by it, because I feel like the next 3 are going to really run into it, right? Like, maybe that is a pacing issue for people. I'm not entirely sure, but the first 3 was very much all set up, and it's taking its time introducing you to the world how it is now, or how the TVA's world is right now. And we've only really just got to the meat of everything. We have Victor Timely, we have Miss Minutes, we have Renslayer. Like, how is that gonna? Where are we going with these 3 people? I suppose Sylvie 4 and Loki, where are we gonna end up this time? Or when are we going to end up this time? But time pun, gotta love him. But I think out of that, right, apart from that, I generally find it hard to criticize this season, right? Like, for a show that's bragged, I don't know if brag's too strong a word actually, but it's said that there wasn't any reshoots. They haven't done any reshoots. The show we got is exactly the show they wrote and the story they wanted to tell. Right, it doesn't really meander around. It doesn't drag its feet. It's not dragging its heels. I find it quite focused, to be honest. It knows exactly. It's like, this episode bang this thing, this episode bang that thing, this episode bang that thing. It's especially because the plot's kind of complex. If we can say there is a plot right now, but I think there's obviously a complex element to it, because people have been like, well, I'm confused about how timelines work. Why is this? How is this working? What's this, that, and that? Da, da, da. So it's got that element to it. And I think, for better or for plot or no plot, right? It's well done. It's well written. It's well acted. It's fantastically shot. right? It's all there, but yeah, the characters in this, they've all been up to like the same standard that the show, like the first season of the show, right? And even the newcomers, you got Quan, a little OB. I should say little OB. Yeah, you got him as OB, and you got X5. I can't remember the actor's name for X5. You know, they've all been great. They've all been up to that standard set by Hiddleston and what's his name, Owen Wilson and John Majors, which I think we kind of have to talk about Majors a little bit, right? I know people don't want to hear about it. That's your prerogative. That's fine. But for someone like me personally, I can't watch a show or a movie with someone like this in it and not get distracted by it. It's just a complete immersion breaker. You know, I could sit here and go, Majors is fantastic. This version of Kang, Victor Timely, is absolutely fantastic. There's no two ways about that. He brings a completely different level to this character I think anyone was expecting. You know, no two Kangs so far have been the same. They've all got their individual quirks, and you could argue that Victor Timely and He Who Remains so far are the closest of them. But whether that's because Victor Timely is He Who Remains and time is just a flat circle and it's cyclical and history repeats and we're seeing how that multiverse war actually kicks off, who knows, right? But that's something I'll get into a bit later on. But for someone like Majors to, you know, be thrust into a higher profile as he has, coming off of like Lovecraft Country, right? I almost got to say God Country then, but that's a fantastic comic by Tony Cates. But yeah, you know, coming off Lovecraft Country and straight into this role, and then bang, instantly having these allegations against him, whether they're true or not, we just don't know. It's a very complex situation that I shouldn't be laughing at, but it's, you know, it's one that I don't think you can find a side right now. I think there's a story on both sides of that thing, and unfortunately we're just gonna have to wait on how that turns out. But it is for me anyway, it's very distracting watching this because it's a case of, oh my god, like he's so good, but what if, right? Is he this guy? Is he not? Can I actually enjoy the show properly and in fully, or have I really got to look around and, you know, actually ask a question? And, you know, some people, it doesn't bother them, right? You know, so some people can just carry on as normal. Other people can't. That's just totally fine. Either way you go, cool. You know, but I do think it's a complex situation, right? It's a case by case basis. I don't think you can just all go, oh, you can't watch this or you can't listen to that. You can't do this because this X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, I mean, I think case by case, right? You gotta look at it. You can't just be that broad with everything. But with that out of the way, Victor Timely, like, wow. Personally, wow. I just don't get how this man does it. Right? It's anyone else. I think you cast anyone else as Kang and had the exact same style of Kang and portrayal of Kang we have, or the multiple Kangs, right? It would have come off really bad, really goofy. But there's something here that it comes off just sincere. Like, they're a believable person like this. Like, these eccentric characters we got as Kang, which for me really fits that character and the idea of everything, right? But it just works. It's something about what Majors does that just makes these characters work, and it really reminds me of Orphan Black. If you haven't watched that with Tatiana Maslany, go watch it. She plays about 1,000. I wouldn't be surprised if Kang was very much, or at least the MCU Kang was based on Maslany's role in Orphan Black, because she plays herself 1,000 times over, and no one is the same. They all feel like real different people. It's a fantastic series. And it's just literally the same case here, right? And I look like even with like stuff like Ant-Man, Quantumania, right? I look forward to seeing how Majors plays Kang going forward. And if the rumors are true of a Beyonder is Kang or is like the Kang, then I can't wait to see how they do the flares. You know, the old 70s flares and the perm afro. Because I can see them doing it. With Majors at the wheel of Kang, I can see them going that route. But we'll see when we get there. I do think... I think there's a lot of credence, though, in the theory that this is setting up the start of the TVA, right? I don't think having a character called Ouroboros in here is not intentional. I think having that character specifically as well, not have their memory wiped when everyone else is getting their memory wiped, not be intentional. And you have the missed minutes and Renslayer going after Victor Timely to try and get him back into that spot. I absolutely feel like this is the start of like the multiversal war, right? Because Loki season 1 essentially told us the plot of the phases leading up to Secret Wars, right? You know, you had the multiversal war, bang, Secret Wars. And Kang's like, oh no, there's too many bad Kangs, quick, I gotta do a thing. I gotta prune the multiverse down into this one cohesive... it's hard to... I suppose loom is the only way you can say it. They've given you the optimal word there, loom. Right, you know, you can't get rid of all the multiverse, but you can stop the branches from going off, and you can keep everything flowing in one organized direction, which does seem to be round for a direction. But and also, I think there's a lot of credence to it when the prototype that Victor Timely is so keen on keeping is, I think it's very clearly the time chair. Right? I know it's small, and you're getting people being like, "Oh, it can't be the time chair because it's so small." You're dumb. It's like it's a prototype. It's literally a scale model of a thing. Right? It's not an. He also says in the show earlier on, he's limited by the technology of his time. Right? He is in 1893, as the episode is called. Literally 1894. But I absolutely do. I'm convinced it's a time chair. I can't think what else it would be. It looks identical to the chair we saw in Quantumania, right? It moves the same. It looks the same. You know, I feel like the reason we didn't actually see it from the front is because it is the chair, right? You just see it from the side and it opens up. But hey, who knows? I'm sure we'll find out in the next 3 episodes exactly what it is. If not, it'll be season 3. But I do feel like we're just going to end up with Timely as He Who Remains Again. You know, I feel like it's to quote Ultron, everyone creates the thing they dread, right? And Loki and Mobius is going to make another Kang, right? The way they acted, the desperation to get him away from Renslayer and Miss Minutes, I think that just sets him right down the path. Now, obviously, it's going to be slightly different because it seems at the end of this episode, Miss Minutes and Renslayer are now plotting against Victor Timely because his reactions to the things that they done, they're weird AI hologram sexual harassment advances, which, to be honest, I think is a great Easter egg for Victor Timely's character, because if you don't know, that is his entire shtick. He has like multiple copies, essentially Doombot. It's like Doctor Doom, right? He has multiple versions of himself, and I think I don't know a lot about Timely as a whole, but I think Timely's whole thing is he's essentially immortal, but he uses the robots to give the impression that he ages, right? Like he's the man behind the curtain. He is the Wizard of Oz, but the robots are out there aging, and like he always pretends to be his son or whatever, or like the son. The robot's his dad, and the robots are slowly age and whatnot. It's an interesting way of doing everything. So having Miss Minutes be like, hey, you need to make me a body, and then you see all these mannequins in Timely's workshop. It's a nice little nod, and I think that's gonna come into play. To be honest, I think that will absolutely, yeah, because it could even be a twist of the season. Just top of my head, while I haven't thought about this before, but you could quite easily have it where we find out He Who Remains was actually just a robot by Victor Timely, and that could be the big twist at the end. Right. He Who Remains is still there, but that was just a robot. Who knows? Who knows? But to wrap this up, I suppose, because I've been going on a little bit, and it's obviously just purely Kang, because I think that's the big talking point of this episode. Is Kang's finally here? He's now a part of this thing, right? But everyone was fantastic. I think Renslayer and Miss Minutes, that they were done really well. I like the arcs that they're going on, and despite this is going to be another little criticism point. I feel like Sylvie came out of nowhere in this. I feel like a benefit of a reshoot or additional photography would have been giving us a reason why Sylvie just pops in, how she knows what timeline they're on, all that. It was just, I felt like she was there because the plot literally called her over. It's just like, hey, come here, I need you. It's time. Say your lines, all right? But despite that, she was good. Her little mini arc, although I personally felt the arc was kind of rushed, but we need to get her to a point where she's not like that. We need her with Loki at some point to help save him in the future. Right? You could have carried that on for another episode, but hey, that's just me personally. But yeah, great performances, great actors, great Balder Easter egg. I loved that Easter egg. I thought that was hilarious. Whether that was he was there because of Multiverse of Madness and they cut him out of that movie and they just left him in here because it still works and it's still funny, I don't know. Or whether it's just purely a case of, hey, you've seen Balder once, no one cares about this guy, right? Who cares about Balder? It should have been Loki. But yeah, so another good episode. Personally, good halfway point for this season. Things ramped up, the plot progressed in a good way. The balance of all the spinning plates this show's doing, they're being balanced. They're still spinning. I got no doubts that the show going forward for the next 3 or the last 3 will be just as good. Hopefully we get more answers and questions in this one. So yeah, that'll bring us to an end for this week. Make sure to tune in for episode 4 of the spoiler review, and we held towards the end because this is the last one. Thinking about it, episode 4 is the last one the press got, or some of the press got, right? So there's obviously going to be a cliffhanger, and if you look at the trailers, we know the TVA has Timely doing Loom stuff because you can see him with a little model of the suit that Mobius wore in the first episode to pull Loki from the timeline. So there's obviously going to be some funky stuff going on there with that. But that's probably going to be next week. All right, so I'll catch you all then. So bye bye.